Sesame Street has been bombarding children with propaganda for some time now. A few years ago, they pushed the COVID shot and endorsed the BLM riots. We began the week by talking about the collapse of Pride Month as parades are canceled due to low attendance and corporate sponsors drop out. Didn't happen by accident. It happened because conservatives organized rallies in defense of children, investigated hospitals and medical providers that were abusing children, boycotted corporations that promoted gender ideology, and ultimately voted to elect politicians who recognized the reality of human biology. And for the first time in many years, conservatives rallied behind a worthwhile cause and secured meaningful change to American culture. As you can imagine, this effective campaign by conservatives, if only because it's so unprecedented, has led to sheer panic and confusion among many left-wing activists. They're really not sure what to do with themselves or how to explain their massive defeat. As recently as a few years ago, they seriously thought that they could convince people to celebrate International Pronouns Day and Gay Uncles Day and 100 other fake holidays. They never imagined that their whole ideology would be so discredited and so universally despised that people would forsake Pride Month, their crown jewel. This is a total shock to them, and therefore, all over the country, dramatic meltdowns are currently in progress. To give one example that's making the rounds, here's a liberal woman who discovered to her horror that the local Target isn't selling trans T-shirts and chest binders or tuck-friendly swimsuits this year. Instead, Target has replaced its Pride section with patriotic clothing that says USA on it. The sacred Pride shrine has been defiled. This woman's not happy about it. Watch.
Happy Pride Month. In my Target that used to have the Pride section, it's now all USA. Yay. It's an American summer. Except for tourism, because tourism's down because no one wants to come here. USA, woo! And honestly, my dad served in the military, and I'd love to be really proud of this nation, but it's hard to be proud of it under Donald Trump. But hey, you know, while you're here, pick up a USA bikini. You know, why not? Yeah, Target's really taken this anti-DEI thing to another level.
Nobody wants to come here, she says as she smiles very angrily, which is always a big red flag. Of course, that claim would be news to the millions of foreign nationals who do everything in their power to come to this country every year, including committing felonies and risking their lives and their children's lives. Also, even if it were true that nobody wanted to come here, what does that have to do with Target selling American flag clothing? Just because every single one of the 10 Canadians who can afford to go on vacation are boycotting America, we're supposed to somehow buy clothing with, we're not supposed to buy clothing with an American flag on it for that reason? This woman is fighting a battle that her side is losing, and at some level she clearly understands that. It'd be hard to miss. For example, this is the first year in a long time where most corporations aren't even bothering to change their social media feeds to reflect LGBT logos. As you can see, companies like Apple, IBM, Paramount, BMW, Netflix, Disney, Spotify, and American Airlines are all sitting this particular Pride Month out, at least as far as the LGBT logos go. And that's some progress, obviously. At the same time, it would be a mistake to say that Pride has been eradicated, because it hasn't been. There are still various corporations and nonprofits that are pushing the message, including the people behind Sesame Street, which targets children as young as 2 years old, if not younger. Sesame Street has been bombarding children with propaganda for some time now. A few years ago, they pushed the COVID shot and endorsed the BLM riots. They also broadcast a spin-off show where a demonic-looking drag performer from Queer Eye tells children that he's going to show them his monster piece. Watch.
Elmo, Cookie, are you ready to see my monster piece?
Ready, Jonathan!
Mama Bear, some runway music, please.
Oh, yeah.
People and monsters alike, a round of applause for the Not Too Late Show's newest monster, Alan. Ta-da! Alan Monster is wearing the latest in high monster fashion with a set of sleek horns, fluffy, fuzzy fur, all topped off with a monster honker.
Now, where most companies and nonprofits have scaled back this kind of overt propaganda, Sesame Street is doubling down on it. That's probably because they know that children are still extremely susceptible to it. So first of all, Sesame Street has invited that person back this season for an episode that's going to air later this year. Presumably, they're going to do more monster makeovers and show more children his monster piece, whatever that is. And secondly, just in time for Pride Month, they posted this message on social media. It reads, quote, "On our street, everyone is welcome. Together, let's build a world where every person and family feels loved and respected for who they are. Happy Pride Month." And they have the image of the people grabbing the furry hands and all the different colors of the pride flag. When my sleep was off, it felt like I couldn't show up as my best self. I spent night after night tossing and turning, waking up exhausted, making it hard to keep up with the latest headlines. That's when I found Beam's Dream Powder. Beam is proudly founded in America and run by people who share our values, hard work, integrity, and delivering results. It's a healthy nighttime blend packed with science-backed ingredients shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. And unlike other sleep aids, there's no next day grogginess, just great restful sleep because Dream is made with a powerful blend of all natural ingredients. Reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. Those are the ingredients. Just Google it yourself. I especially appreciate the Beam is an American company, both built and operated here. So a purchase supports hardworking Americans committed to doing things the right way. Here's the deal. Beam is giving my listeners the ultimate Patriot discount of up to 40% off. Try their best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/Walsh and use code Walsh to check out. That's shopbeam.com/Walsh. Use code Walsh for up to 40% off. Sleep better, wake up stronger, and show up ready for your family, your work, and your country. Because when you're well-rested, you're unstoppable. And this country needs more people just like that. Now, if you wanted to protect children, this is the exact opposite message you'd tell them. You wouldn't tell them that every person should be respected because that's not true. For example, if somebody working for Sesame Street was arrested for possessing sexually explicit images of young children on his computer, which happened a little over a decade ago, then it would be a mistake to tell children that he should be respected. Some people are evil. They do terrible things, and we shouldn't respect what they do, and we shouldn't respect them either, personally. And every reasonable adult understands that, but people who want to groom children push the opposite message. Again, fortunately, we're seeing fewer and fewer of these messages lately because most adults understand exactly what's going on, but children, as well as adults with the minds of children, are still being targeted with this kind of LGBT propaganda. And it works particularly well on people whose brains aren't fully developed. For example, Canadians are constantly subjected to LGBT propaganda, even in 2025. Some of this propaganda takes the form of advertisements, like this one from Air Canada. Let's check in with their priorities.
We are doing the first ever, now let me get that one straight because a few letters have been added to this one, 2S LGBTQIA+ flight ever in Canada. I do identify with the progress flag. There's something in there that represents me as well. So it was a bit of joy having the opportunity to do this flight today.
Aujourd'hui, ce que ça signifie, c'est vraiment un moment très spécial. C'est vraiment un terme de visibilité, de vraiment exprimer à tout le monde. On se sent vraiment accueilli, vraiment accepté pour qui on est.
Pour célébrer l'inclusion à la diversité, nous sommes heureux d'annoncer que le vol d'aujourd'hui
features our very first all 2S LGBTQIA+ crew.
The safety and the well-being of all the passengers on board rests in our hands. So it doesn't matter who they are, what they represent. I'm equally responsible for all of them.
D'ailleurs, on aimerait vous souligner ce moment marquant de l'histoire canadienne.
And want to celebrate not just our community, but our freedom to be who we are, both at work and in society. Valuing people equally, both in the air and on the ground, and celebrating our identities, no matter what they are, with customers and our employees is important to us. Shante, you all stay.
Now, in case you couldn't make it out because some of it's in French, the captain says that this flight is a watershed moment in Canadian history, and that's what he tells the passengers. The first all 2SL LGBTQIA+ flight, he says, was a major development for Canada as a country. Truly, Canada will never be the same after this moment. They got a bunch of two-spirits, lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgenders, queer, intersex, asexual, and plus-sign people together, and they flew the plane. It's like the Canadian version of the moon landing. Actually, it's less impressive than it sounds. As best I can tell, they didn't make sure that all the passengers were 2SL LGBTQIA+. That would have been, more impressive and probably very illegal and highly invasive. Instead, they're just referring to the crew. Apparently, every crew member falls into one of these letters or symbols. But that still raises the question of how exactly Air Canada determined the identities of its various crew members. When they were signing this crew, did they look for someone who's intersex? Did they ask the captain who he likes to sleep with? Did they grill him about how many spirits he has? What if he said he had 3 spirits? Would he be disqualified because they're only interested in people with 2? That seems like a pretty obvious safety risk. I mean, you want a pilot with as many spirits as possible, I would think. Sadly, though, even in Canada in the year 2025, three-spirit discrimination remains very real. But we're picking on Canada too much. To be fair, there are a few other entities that are still continuing down this path. The New England Patriots uploaded some gay imagery, for example, so no surprise there. For their part, the Philadelphia Museum of Art decked out their famous stairs with various trans-colored flags. This is where the Rocky statue is located. You can see it here. And, for a long time, we've wondered how trans activists would up their game after painting flags all over the roads so that people would be forced to drive over them. And now we have our answer. They're going to put their flags all over the stairs that you're walking on. I guess the idea is that we're supposed to trample the pride flag under our feet. I mean, that would seem to be the obvious implication here. And if that's the case, I have to confess, I think it's a great idea. It's a much better idea than the pride flags on random roads because everybody wants to emulate Rocky and run up and down those steps. So I'll book my flight to Philadelphia right now. I'll fly Air Canada if I can. Leave it to Philadelphia to construct the world's first pride monument that's actually interactive and worth visiting. I have to admit, I didn't see that coming. Hats off to these brilliant innovators in the city of brotherly love, I suppose. As for everyone else who continues to push unironic and uninteresting Pride Month propaganda long after Pride Month has faded into irrelevance, the Sesame Streets and the Air Canadas of the world, I have a very different message. Like Pride Month itself, you are all today canceled. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.